Hey, good morning. Happy Saturday. Just taking a little walk here around my neighborhood, and I'm back in town. And I just want a little talk just for a minute about why I named this channel the Electrical Craftsman. I used to have my own business, and my the motto or the catchphrase that I wanted for that business and that we used was quality electrical craftsmanship. The word craftsman always stuck in my head. I used to like watching like This Whole House, and that idea, Norm Abrams, and gosh, I can't remember some of the other names, but what was it, Bob something or other. It's been a while. But anyway, I just loved that show and the way the people who did that construction work, it wasn't just about hammering boards together or slinging wire through an attic, or just, oh, what HVAC unit are we going to put in? They just slap a unit in without any thought. They really went over all the details and how to really get that in. What are the details? What's about that installation has some depth to it. And construction really is, it requires a lot of time to really master. Like, it's one of these things that it's easy to get into. It's very accessible to a lot of people to get into and to get started with, but then it takes years to master. And that, so that's really kind of the beauty of construction, I think, is you can get into it. You don't have to go to college to get started. You can just go to a construction company who's looking for some extra hands, some extra labor, and then get started. And then you have a choice from there. Either you just like, okay, well, now I have a job, and you do exactly what you're told from day to day, and that's about as far as you get. Or you start asking yourself, well, what more is there to this? How do I rise to the top? How do I become a better leader? How do I become a better installer? How do I get to a point where I understand the drawings and understand this installation enough to where I can start making independent decisions and really take control of this and make this my craft? How do I make this mine? And so, like, there's certain things that are just best practices, and what you should be doing, what we all should be doing, what I still do, and what I've done throughout my career is I look at what are the other people that I admire in this career doing. How are they doing it better than I'm doing it now? And then when I find something that's better than how I'm doing it now, I want to do it that way, or build upon how they're doing it in order to just take it to that extra level. And to me, that's what craftsmanship is you start at a base. You got to start somewhere. Just do something, right? Don't just, oh, I don't understand enough to start. No, just get started. Jump in, get going, and then build on that, and never stop building on that. And then that's how you build your craft. And so in this video today, I'm kind of moving around the job site a lot. I put my my GoPro on my hard hat, and I'm moving my head around a lot. So I'm still developing my videography craft. It's brand new to me. I am an amateur at best. Maybe I'm a noob, but I'm trying. I'm just starting somewhere. And then hopefully this channel demonstrates over time that I start to develop a craft, in this videography and what do we call it? Content creation. This is what I want to develop in myself. And through that journey, I've learned a lot in electrical that I think that I can share with whoever's interested in watching, to help gain some efficiency. Maybe I can help shortcut some of you guys and girls who are starting your journey, to get to that point where you are a more efficient worker and you're able to make more money and you're able to really just flex your skills on the job. And that's what I hope to provide. And if you can't make it through this entire video, I understand, because I am moving the camera around a lot. So any suggestions that anyone might have on that front, I appreciate it. But if you can make it through, then I suggest that you listen, try to employ some of these workflows as far as wall roughing is concerned into what you're doing, and I think you'll find that it'll go a bit better for you if you aren't doing some of these things already. All right, thanks. Enjoy. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of box roughing. We've actually already got some MC cable ran. I'm gonna do some terminating. One thing we wanna do when we're cutting in, try to lay everything out so you don't have to move around too much. So first, usually when I'm boxing out I'll put a box down after marking out, and then I'll go ahead and I'll put my plastering down where I want it to go. That's one thing. If you want to gain efficiency on a project, the way to do that is to reduce movement. Now, there are certain movements that you have to make, but if you can get more out of those movements, then you're simply going to be more efficient. You're going to get more done quicker, and that's really the name of the game. And so another thing I want to do is make sure that I'm set up for what I'm working on. So normally I'll have a material pouch. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate that in this video because I've been out of the field for a while and I don't have my pouch, but I will be getting one. And so when I come back here next week, I'm going to have a pouch with me. Because a pouch, a simple object such as that, only costs, you know, what are you going to spend? Like $15 for a decent pouch? And then you're going to reduce a lot of movement around the site. You know, you got to walk back and forth to get all of these little things that I'm putting in my container here now. That's a lot of wasted motion. Another thing I would like to have on this job, we don't have one right now, but it would be nice to have actually a material cart. But at the moment, I'm just going to make do with what I have. We're kind of near the end of this job, so there's no need to go crazy getting a bunch of different things. But so you can see what I'm doing here is I'm loading the material that I need. If I were doing something different, running pipe, you know, I would definitely want a material cart for that because it just takes up a lot more space. But this exercise of just getting everything I need in my container right now, while it might look like I'm wasting time in the short term, in the long term, this is going to pay off because I'm just not going to be going back and forth and having to stand up and walk for wire nuts and walk for red heads and walk for screws and this and that. I need to have it all with me so I can go as fast as possible. All right, so what am I missing? I need some more ground screws. I'm gonna put that on there. Let me put some more anti-shorts in here because I'm going to go through these like crazy. My CJ6 straps, I'll put these on there. My Roto splits. And I've already laid out my plastering so that I don't have to be running around with those. So that's the first thing. Get set up for what you're doing. All right. Like you can see, this is already kind of inefficient compared to a wire cart because you wouldn't have to keep even moving this around. But this, like I say, this is what I have to work with at the moment. So I'm just going to set myself up to go as fast as possible. All right, let's move over. Puts a couple of these, probably gonna want 2 of those there, 2 of these here. This is actually something too that I would do as I'm boxing out. When I'm boxing out, I want to put my CJ6 straps on the wall at the same time because then I don't have to run around looking for them during cut-in. When you're roughing in, there's certain steps that you should be taking. You know, one of them is going to be boxing out, and during box out, if you're doing residential, then you've got somebody going through and drilling out studs. In commercial, with metal studs, or even residential with metal studs, you should be putting a box on the wall, You should be laying your plasterings there, right in the channel so it doesn't get kicked around. So I'm trying not to move my head around too much because I know that can be pretty jarring. But also you should be putting your straps on. Your strap goes within 12 inches of the box. The way I like to do these is one in the front, one in the side. It keeps it nice and secured. I'm gonna go again here. And then some people might go and they say, oh, why don't you punch out a bunch of holes so you're closer to the box? Like, sure, but labor is the most expensive thing on a job. These are very cheap. We just run through the holes we got, little extra wire. I mean, and even another thing with labor is not plentiful. We have a shortage of skilled labor in the trades. So you got to take steps to be efficient because nobody's coming to save us. We got to do the best we can with what we've got. And we can make up a lot of lost time just by finding some efficiencies. So here I can't get two in there, so I might go and try to grab another one here. Yeah, I don't know if that's, I mean, these washers are not washers. These screws are rounded, so that's not going to really bow the sheetrock too much, but with one screw I always feel like it's just not secure enough because I'm not against the flat side of the stud here. So the one I just sort of moved around and I don't like that. It ain't going nowhere. See, I'm doing the same thing. It's assembly line. I'm not gonna go put my straps on at one box and then change at that box to go cut it in and then put the plastering. I'm going to do as much as I can in the way of an assembly line as possible because I'm just gonna get faster putting these straps on the more that I do it over and over again. So step one when roughing in walls, install your boxes, install straps. You're kind of planning your routing for your circuits. At this stage you should have already studied the plans and understood. And then one thing too is the circuit numbers. So if you're roughing in with a crew or even by yourself, when you're putting the box on the wall you should also be putting the circuit numbers. So let's see if I can get that on here now too. I mean, it's already roughed in. I just want to show you for the sake of best practices because somebody might be coming behind you and you need to be able to communicate with them efficiently. It's all about efficiency. So how am I going to communicate to somebody that this circuit box and that next box is all on the same circuit? Well, I'm going to mark it either on the box. This is LP1 3. And it's a single device. So I'll just draw the symbol, or I could put it on a stud. LP1 3. Excuse me, single device. If it were a quad, I draw a quad. Things of all that nature. So this way, I'm boxing out, I'm putting my straps on, and then the person who comes behind me, they can just say, oh, LP1 3. They can look for all the boxes that say LP1 3 and wire them together. And you almost don't have to say a word to each other at that point. So this should be done all at the same time. Once this office or any space is ready to be roughed in, the box out person should box it out. Whoa, I was tripping over my tools. Should box it out 100%. You get your plastering there, got your box there. You could even go as far as putting your connector in. If you know you're gonna have in and out, you know you're routing enough, you could go ahead and even pop your connectors in. Sorry, I know I'm moving my head around a lot. I need a better idea for recording myself while I work, because I feel like the head movement is just could be nauseating. But oops, there's a bad connector. A lot of people are going to say they don't like these. I like them. Done. Okay. This box, it's a wet, humid environment. Things oxidize really fast around here. Look at how gross that box looks. You know, all this framing and everything. You can look at it. It's a tough environment here. But yeah, so you can do all that. If you had a conduit coming out of this, then you would go ahead, you have the connector in it already. So you can take as many steps as you can when you're boxing out, so that when it's time to pull the cable in, it's really fast to terminate. The guy cutting in the cable, they don't have to go and look for 1, 2, 3, like 5 to 7 additional items. It's all in place, and then they only have to carry a few items around. All right, so those are just a few tips of roughing in. If I could, I'm kind of stepping into this rough in at the last minute. So if I could, I would just show you the whole process clean from start to finish. But basically that's it. Just get that rough in as tight as you can, or excuse me, get the box out as tight and as thorough as you can, so that the person who comes in to cut in the cables has the least amount of material to carry with them. Okay. Now, I'm gonna bring my little seat in here. I'm older, guys. My knees don't want to be on the ground there. Some of you younger guys, I would take care of your knees, that's for sure. If you can still move around quickly, you got things like these cases now that we didn't have when I was starting out. And it's a lot better than being on your knees all day and breaking your body before it's time. All right, so I'm going to cut this in. You know, I know how I want this to go. And I'm going to I want about a foot past the box so that I have some wire length to dress my cables nice and clean. All right, so there's that cable. It's going to be cut there. And what I'll do is I'll just hold my thumb where I want to cut it. Then I use this tool, this Roto split tool. You set where you want to cut it. You set that little tab there. See that little tab? I'll put that about where my thumb is. Squeeze, a couple twists, turn, and pull. You see that made a nice clean cut. Now the next thing I will do is put a red head. Before I take that plastic out, I want to put my red head or anti-short bushing. I want to put that in there. I know there's a lot of different ideas as to whether or not these are required, and on my jobs they are required because I say so. I'm not really too concerned with what people think for what's the right or wrong way, but this is my way and we're going to do it here. So you put that in, cut your plastic, to go. Now with these connectors, there's these splines in there that are going to catch the cable. So when you slide your wire in, you want to make sure you're not sliding it in between those splines and damaging it. And so long as you're careful when you're sliding it in, you will not damage the cable. Push it in until it seats all the way. And you can even, I can't see it in the video, but you can see that it's seated all the way. So that one's done. I'll get my next one here. I want that to sort of follow a nice shape. You know, if you're going to be a craftsman, you want it to look good, even though the walls are going to get closed up. The customer sees this, you see it, your peers see it. If it looks good, I mean, that's just a matter of personal pride to me. I want to be proud of what I'm doing. I think that if you're going to be a professional, you're going to be a craftsman, obviously. I don't know if it's obvious, but you should be taking pride in what you're doing. Just do the best you can. Just know that the best you can is still not the best that could be. And just keep learning. Keep trying to do better. Get better, faster, stronger, all that. All right, So that's in there. Now I'll take my CJ6 strap, I'll fold this over, fold it over there. This one, this in there, fold that little tab over. All right, and then the last step with these CJ6s is just pinch this on one side. I see a lot of people pinching it on this side. Don't do that. This metal is not strong enough. And if you pinch it too tight, it is prone to breaking. That holds it exactly the way it's intended to. So you just pinch this one side and you're done. That's it. All right, MC is cut in. Now, I want to terminate these. Let's see. Another thing that should be done during box out is ground screws should be installed. So that as I'm cutting in, I don't have to run around looking for ground screws. Ground screw in. Okay, so this is a very common thing that electricians do that I'm going to show you. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. Now code requires 6 inches of free conductor from the point that it exits the connector to where it terminates. Now I want to terminate this in a way that reduces the number of conductors I need under my wire nut. So what I'm going to do, on my hand plus the depth of the box, you know, my hand plus my thumb that's going to be about 6 inches if I hold it like this. So what I typically do when I'm cutting in a box, put my hand here. Now that's about 6 inches. Now from there, take my wire strippers. Let's try to pull this toward me to expose some copper. There you go, have some copper exposed. And I'm going to shape this in over the screw. Let me see if I can reposition so you can see inside that box. Okay. Tighten that screw. Now you see that's still kind of open at the connector. So what I'm going to do is take my pliers and just squeeze it shut. Now that's really nice. You can do this with a screwdriver like this, or you can use a drill. Just get it nice and tight. My drill's down there. Is this what I'm doing right now, walking back from my drill? That's an efficiency loss. And I'm disappointed that I just had to do it. I want my drill. I want all my stuff near me so that as I'm doing this, I don't have to keep moving around. Just imagine, you get a big old job, and I have to walk back and forth like that. But I don't know how many times, hundreds of times, and then I'm not the only one. How many people are on the job? 5, 10, you know? And they're all making these little efficiency mistakes like that a lot. It's gonna add up. That's gonna be the difference at the end of the job as to whether or not you went over on labor or you didn't. Okay, so what am I doing now? So now I'm doing what's called dressing the cables. Now, an inexperienced electrician will just, you know, they'll just be terminating these every which way without any organization. Now, I'm thinking about the type of device that I'm installing here. This is a receptacle device. We're going to install the ground down on the receptacle device. That means my neutral and ground are going to be on this side of a device, and my hot's going to be on that side of the device. And I want to make sure this device goes into the box nice and easy. I don't want to fight it later. And I can make decisions now that will make it either easier or harder for the next person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in my ground and my neutral on this side of the box. And I want my hot conductor on the other side of the box. So I'm going to dress them in. So this is what that's called. I'm dressing these cables. Cables are dressed in. Now I'm going to use my hand as a measuring device. Put my hand against the box. And right there is where I'm going to cut the cable. Okay, here's another efficiency loss. When roughing in, see, I don't have enough wire anymore here to make pigtails. When you're roughing in, one cable should be a bit longer than the other cable, so that when I make this cut, I have enough conductor here to make 3 pigtails. Right now I've got enough to do 2. I don't have enough on my ground. It has a lot to do with the way I cut it in as well. But if you leave one cable a little bit long and the other cable just right, you won't have to be running around looking for scrap wire. All right, so anyway, so now I've got enough of this so that I can do my cutting without having to keep chasing this around. Hey man. Oh. I'm just talking to myself. Yeah. All right, so I'll cut myself a bunch of lengths that are about 12 inches long. That's how I like them. That way I can get some nice cut-in done, and I can do a nice little trick at the end of my cut-in that I like, but there's someone I work with, he hates it, but I don't care. I'm gonna keep doing it. All right, so how long did that take me? What is that, 45 seconds? I gotta do that every single time? What a waste. Okay. I've been in the office for a while too, guys, so you know I am a little slower than I used to be, that's for sure. And I'll get back there eventually. So now we're just going to cut in. I like to strip about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. Gives me plenty to work with for making a nice splice. I'm going to line up all my insulation. Make a few good twists. Clean up the end. And the wire nut. And I usually get it finger tight and then put a couple twists on with my pliers, and that's good. See, that one slipped a little bit, so I'm going to realign them. So another thing where I'm a little bit out of practice. Okay, now that's clean that up. Next wire nut. I want to put the wire nut on before I move to the next one, because that's what keeps this whole thing together, obviously. All right, go. All right, that's that. Now I'm going to tuck them in nice and clean. Tuck my ground and my neutral there, all the way to the left. Tuck my line conductor to the right. Try to group them all nice together, and then I'm going to take one conductor at the end and just wrap it around to keep it all nice and clean together like that. This is only a good idea to do when you've left your tail long enough so that when the trim out guy comes, he can just pull this out, he can cut it right there, have a nice clean end without having to dig around inside the box too much to look for the cable. And I like to fold that right there, like that. And so put the plastering on. Whoopsie. All right, that's good to go. And so then when they're ready to device out, you just come grab that, snip off that, and you're good to go to put in your device. Now, this is going to be 1/2 inch sheetrock, so when you size your plaster rings, you need to size them 1/8 of an inch larger than the sheetrock, because the depth of the plaster ring is measured from the back of the ring, not the face. And so if they put 1/2 inch sheetrock on and I put 1/2 inch plaster rings on, now my device is sunk behind the wall 1/8 of an inch, and I have to go through and I have to use what's called goof rings on everything. I don't want to do that. So You need to know the depth of the material going on top of the wall, which in the case of this office is 1/2 inch. And so I'm using a 5/8 plastering, and then this plate should finish off nice and clean against the sheetrock, you know, depending on how good the sheetrocker is. So that's pretty much that. I'm going to go through and I'm going to you know, get this all cut in and just keep going. But that's pretty much how you do that. All right, guys? Thank you.